Today's Wednesday, August 26, 2026, and it's the Town of Dayton's Board of Selectmen regular meeting. So it's 6 o'clock. We're meeting in person here at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Ave, and via Zoom as posted on our agenda. Public input may be provided using the following methods. You can contact our office at Board of Selectmen at dayton-ma.gov. You can join us via Zoom or in person. We have play on Dayton Channel 95 and on YouTube. Could I have a call to order?
Peter Karen here. Glenn Cavish present.
And Mark Pacheco present. And if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could stand to have a moment of silence, please, for Joseph Pacheco. Joe Pacheco was a longtime public servant of the town of Dayton. He served under many different titles. Most notably, he was on the Board of Appeals for a long time. He was our Title V agent, soil conservation agent, hearing clerk. He was on a police station building committee, Board of Health, Board of Appeals member, Board of Health agent, amongst many more, and he was very solemnly missed. Okay, thank you. All right, we have our first scheduled appointment. We have our superintendent, Bill Rooney, amongst with our team from Arrow Street and Skanska for our school building committee update. Good evening.
Thank you,
Thank you for being here.
Mr. Karen, Mr. Cabbage, thank you for having us. Thank you. As always, thank you to Karen for taking care of us on the agenda. So good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Before my team and I get into the details of where we are at this point in the MSBA process, I just want to begin by recognizing the members of the school building committee. I want to commend you on, I know Mr. Cabbage wasn't here at that particular time, but when the Board of Selectmen appointed the members of the school building committee, you did a fantastic job. This group has spent an extraordinary amount of hours. They've been very dedicated. They've been asking the difficult questions, studying alternatives, listening carefully to our community, and never losing sight of the responsibility we have both to the Dayton taxpayers and to the students and staff who ultimately live and learn in this building. The commitment reflects the same rigor and leadership described in my memo to you on Friday. I think we should feel a real sense of pride in the work, where the work has brought us. The preferred scheme that we're presenting tonight represents what we believe is the best overall solution for Dayton. It is the strongest financial option and provides the shortest construction timeline. That shorter timeline minimizes disruption for our students and our staff, and it also reduces our exposure to construction cost escalation. Throughout this process, we have been committed to being as fiscally responsible as possible. We have carefully evaluated every option. We are working to maximize the benefit of the MSBA reimbursement. We're even pursuing potential grant opportunities that could even further offset costs to the community. That fiscal responsibility is fully consistent with the approach outlined in the memo, which emphasizes maximizing state reimbursement and avoiding the higher long-term risks and costs associated with continuing to patch an aging facility. I also want to recognize the exceptional professionalism of Mr. Fataco, Chairman Pacheco, and the project team from Skanska and Arrow Street. You all have brought tremendous expertise to this process and have been responsive, patient, thorough, and committed to making sure the SBC has the information it needs to make informed decisions. So tonight, our goal is just to walk you through how we arrived at this recommendation, what the preferred scheme looks like, and why we believe it represents the best path forward, and what comes next in the MSBA process. Mr. Fataco, if you wouldn't mind just advancing. So everything that we are working on as an SBC is rooted in the district's strategic plan, which is called Driving Toward 2030. a group of very dedicated community members, school committee members, and staff members like Mrs. Kuchar, Principal Lima, Mr. Brem, who's our district business administrator, who's also here tonight. We all collaborated over the course of several years to be able to put this plan together. And our goal is to empower our staff members to ignite the possibilities in our students while we're not only shaping their future, but also the future of the district. Next slide. Before I turn it over to Marianne Williams from Skanska, I do want to just say how grateful I am to the members of the community who turned out for the various educational and community visioning sessions. We spent, in the blizzard kind of set us back a couple of times. We had to do some rescheduling, but I'm very grateful to the community members who came forward and gave their priorities for what they would want to see if, in fact, we end up with a new building for Dighton Elementary School. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our owner's project manager, Marianne Williams from Skanska. Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So what you see up here is the overall process of the grant program with the Mass School Building Authority. I won't read everything to you, but we are at a point where we've gone through 2 submissions to the state and working on the last submission that'll be coming up in the spring, actually in February. This has been a very thoughtful process. It's the MSBA process is very prescriptive and linear, and with each submission that goes into the state, there's also a peer review that's conducted by like professionals independent of this team to make sure that we truly did our due diligence and that you have a true feasibility study. Next slide, please. So this, we by no means have all the information, but we're looking at submitting the next schematic design to the Mass School Building Authority in February. We anticipate that sometime in May, June, yet to be determined, will be determined and vetted with the select board as well as the school building committee about town vote and the appropriation process. Next slide, please. So community engagement, I was very impressed to see that there were 153 responses to the community survey. The whole goal here was about listening before deciding and trying to get as much feedback, not in would you prefer a renovation, would you prefer a new, do you like this option better than that option, but to really survey the community to understand what's important in terms of your community values, the educational goals, and to really come up with a design for an option that would take care of the concerns of the community, address what was in the statement of interest, which allowed you to join into the grant program, and to really get as much information as possible about the process and moving this forward in the community. Next slide, please. So what we heard, and I'm not as farsighted as I hoped I was. So what we heard back from folks was feedback on, I want to say, modern learning environments, how important it was to have safe and secure schools, that it was important to have a long-term investment that took care of the needs in the community, not just a short-term solution, but a 50-year solution, and to maximize the MSBA reimbursement. So, and part of looking at that is addressing the overcrowding, the deficiencies in the building, and also trying to bring forth an option that is fiscally responsible, that addresses the educational programs and the ongoing needs of the taxpayers being able to fund it. So next slide, please. So I'm going to turn this over to Tina. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here. So the slide you see here, I know Mary Ann and also Superintendent had covered a lot of it, but what you see in front of you is that is the process. It's part of the MSBA process, the design process. As you heard, there was a lot of engagement with the community, but also with the educational envisioning. And so we listened carefully of what those needs and what those goals are. And from that, we take that and we begin to look at a lot of options. So what you see here is going through base repair, add reno options, as well as new construction options. And there's and they all meet the educational program. The only one that doesn't is the base repair. However, as we go through it, that sets up as the benchmark. So we're using that as a benchmark to understand what that means. And from there, as part of the process, working with the school building committee, as well as the community, to understand how those goals are met. And so from there, on the next slide, as we vet through all the options, we understand all the pros and cons. We want to make sure that we also understand costs. So in terms of all those options, we narrowed it down. So with the 4 that you see here, the base repair, an ad reno, a couple, and 2 new construction options. And these options, we're using the cost to really compare each other and to evaluate what that means, and also to understand what the major cost drivers are. And also with those, we are providing an informed decision, really trying to understand what the best value is for the options that's supporting the long-term planning of a new school. On the next slide, and with that, the school building committee had concluded where a preferred scheme was selected. The preferred scheme shown here in the site plan. These are early, I should say that these are very early conceptual designs, and this is really just the tip of an iceberg of a long process where we would continue to have discussions to understand, making sure that the adjacencies of all the programming spaces are appropriate, working with the principal, and continue working with the school building committee. But what you start to see here is this is an illustrative plan from the landscape architect. However, a lot of it goes into not just the landscaping, but the vehicular circulation and ensuring that this is a safe place for the families and the students. The next slide, very similar. This is at the very end where we've selected a scheme. So again, just the tip of the iceberg where we're beginning to understand the adjacencies, how things might begin to lay out. But there's going to be continued evolvement and development of the design. So there's more to come. And with that, I will end on this slide.
I think it is important that we do have a very comprehensive communication plan. There is a lot of information that is out there for members of the community. Our school building committee meetings are posted. They are open meetings. They are held at the high school. We started meeting in the DES library, but the chairs were kind of tiny for some of us that are a little older. But we have a project Facebook page. We have a project website. There's also an email that is received by my office and both of the project teams. It's desproject@drregional.org. So with that, we will do the best we can to answer any questions that we have for you. And if we don't have answers tonight, we'll get them for you in the near future.
Awesome, thank you. Great presentation as always. Any questions from?
Yeah, the response doesn't seem impressive. I mean, you commented on it, like.
I'll let Mary Ann give you her sense from working on another project.
Okay.
Actually, I thought it was based on my experience of working on school
Yeah,
projects
sure.
over the last 20 years that was a very good response.
Was it really?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. A lot of times you might only see 30 to 50 responses. So we were very pleased that there was that type of interest, that the people cared enough to take the time, review the questions, and provide some feedback.
Sure. It just, not that we get a lot of phone calls. I don't want to make it sound like it's the talk of the town, but after not passing the 2.5, the debt exclusion. This is obviously going to go to a debt exclusion, and people's opinions seem louder than 153 comments. That's why I say it doesn't seem overly impressive compared to what I've heard out there. But not everybody wants to respond to a survey, so that's okay.
Mr. Karen, I was disappointed as well until, I talked with the project team, and they've done this type of work in similar communities,
Right.
Throughout the Commonwealth. And they said, for the time of year, which again, June was a very busy time, June and July. When they convinced me that they were impressed, then I lowered my
that's fine.
expectations a little bit.
I don't want to. If you guys have questions, just chime in.
Okay.
But, the town meeting that we're going to have, whatever happened to putting it on the election day? Is that off the table now?
Do you want to do that update, Ralph?
We tried our best to get it to coincide with the election day, but with MSBA's response to the team, we wouldn't get that information until late in time.
Okay.
And I think it's like March, so then we have to put it off, and then we need 30 days for the elections.
Okay. Yeah, would it be part of the mail-in ballots?
It will be a separate election.
Yep.
And.
So I know it won't go on the annual.
Right, it will not go on the annual election. It will be a special town election, a special town meeting, and a special town election.
Okay. I feel like I have so many questions, but again, I don't want to dominate it. Why wasn't the base repair option eliminated when you said that it wouldn't be part of?
I can answer that. So with the base repair, that is actually part of the MSBA's requirement for the design team to look at the base repair. The biggest issue with the base repair is that with the overcrowding, that it does not add space to the existing building.
Okay.
It's bringing the building up to code.
Yep.
It's repairing building systems that might be beyond its life. Things like that, and accessibility, but it does not address the spatial concerns that was presented in the statement of interest when it was submitted to the MSBA. Therefore, it doesn't meet the educational program, and because it doesn't meet the educational program, it would be off the table for the MSBA.
Okay.
They wouldn't participate in the grant.
Okay.
Can I speak to that a little bit too?
Yeah.
The whole MSBA committee too, when they were looking at all of the different options, they had to vote on which school to vote on, and there was a metric that we looked at. Could you speak to what the different criteria was and how they were scored? For an overview on that, because we put a lot of time and effort to make sure we made the most informed decision. But.
Absolutely, yes. So with the several options that we put in front of the school building committee is that one of the things is that we go through a criteria, and there's several categories in that criteria where we basically stack all the options against each other. And with that, they're scored to see which options best meet those criteria. And certainly the base repair met certain ones in terms of cost and the least amount of disruption. However, it doesn't meet the educational program. And with all the other options where it does meet educational program, there are also pros and cons where it may not meet safety in the most optimal way, so it might have a lower score. And each of those are weighted as well. So with the final score, which is where you'll see that there's an ad reno option and a couple of new construction option which scored the highest.
Right.
However, we kept the base repair there as a benchmark, so that you can continue to see that it had a very low score for a number of reasons.
Sure.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing about it, if you look at the MSBA reimbursement, and if they don't participate, it actually exceeds your borrowing capability without MSBA reimbursement for the town. And I don't know if you want to say anything more.
Yeah, very good. That's one of the things we looked at. One of the formulas used for to determine your borrowing cap is 5% of the equivalent value, which puts us at $72 million. But the ad rental exceeded that, so we couldn't borrow that amount. For MSBA supported projects, we don't have to follow that. We don't have to follow that criteria.
Okay.
The estimated construction cost, obviously for a new school, and you have a 32-month. Will it never stop during the school time, or will these machineries just be running constantly and being disruptive to? I know there's something that's unavoidable, but
I mean, we're obligated by the MSBA to explore other potential sites within town, and
Okay.
that didn't materialize. So
yeah.
it is going to be an active construction site. There are going to be disruptions to both the middle school and the elementary school. I went through it as a high school principal when Attleboro High School was under construction. What I will say is that the entire project team, which included the construction management team at that particular time, they were always sensitive to when we had state testing days. So they worked with us, but there were times where I'd have to send out a message early in the week to say, don't use this particular road. You're going to have to use that particular road. That was obviously it was a 500,000 square foot building that they were building. This would not be anywhere close, but
Well, you made a good point about, and not to interrupt you, I'm sorry. You made a good point about looking at other options. We're not building wise, but locations, and nothing came up. Okay.
Correct. There was a half a dozen alternative sites reviewed, and either there wasn't enough room for siting the building or having circulation for a fire truck to go around, or it didn't have utilities or underground infrastructure available without going a long distance. So it was probably the least cost effective
Sure.
to go to another site
Right.
than it was to work with the existing site.
The new construction probably is going to be the best option. I don't know. And I see your cost estimates. When building is designed, you have to obviously design it for a certain growth and a certain amount of life. But when it's initially designed, does it take what technology will be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or is it going to be designed so that this is what's happening today, and we might be getting something that, by the time the doors open, is already outdated?
Yeah, I could speak to in terms of technology
Yeah.
and building materials. So certainly as we make decisions on building materials and building technology, we are selecting what is durable. So the MSB expects the building to at least stand for and be in good condition for 50 years. Certainly there's going to be maintenance and so forth. And in terms of technology, we are also always looking for where there could be flexibility. The MSB also requires us to at least indicate where there could be future growth. So it could be 20 years and you might see that the town has a growth, but there is area where we can show that you can add if it needed to expand.
Okay.
And you might be able to speak to the enrollment as
Yes,
well.
so the school has a design enrollment, that's the agreement between the Mass School Building Authority and the town, and it's for 515 students. And so I think the current numbers are, between 425, 450. Okay,
We're not
that's
going to grow
always,
that much.
Yeah.
We're going to be limited.
but that number
sorry,
for
what was that number?
515 is.
the design enrollment's 515, and we're currently sub 450.
Okay.
And so that 515 is at 85% utilization.
Okay.
So it could take on another 60 students.
Sure.
Don't check my math here, but it could.
That's all right. There's an interesting thing on the news the other night where a big box store is doing 3D printing construction. I don't know if you saw it. I don't want to mention their name, but unless they're going to pay us. But
Looking to a grant.
has not 3D building options been included, but you forecast with the cost of materials going up, obviously with your construction. How much have they investigated? That's a big item as far as I'm concerned, because it can go hit or miss, and if it's a hit, there can be a lot of extra funds available. If it's a miss, then we take it on the chin.
So if I may, the estimate that was put together was developed by PM&C, who I want to say they're the premier estimator in the state. They estimate more school projects than any other firm. Okay, and they go through a process where, by working with the design team, there's actually, should the project be approved and move forward, they'll end up having been 6 iterations of estimates. And what they do is they're checking what's actually happening in the market, currently happening, and understanding about escalation going forward. So we're also doing other things to try and mitigate costs. So for example, we're paying attention to what's happening with tariffs, okay? We're looking at alternatives to steel, that we are looking at a grant program for mass timber, which if we can source it domestically and not be subject to certain tariffs that are going on back and forth with Canada and Europe, we're looking at multiple layers of strategies and the supply chain. And I'll just come out and say it. I work with Skanska, who's one of the largest construction companies in the world. And we have a whole group that's monitoring supply chain issues, tariffs, etc. So when something happens, we all get an email.
Okay.
Be aware of this, talk to your client. So I'm happy that we have such a great design team. It's in their contract to design to budget. Beyond acts of God, there are things that happen in the world, but we are very much awake and paying attention to what's out there and building an appropriate contingency so that the budget that's put together will stand the test of time. And in my own personal experience, I've never had a project exceed budget.
Okay. Do you guys want to?
I'll let you guys talk first.
Okay, I got a few. I've worked in surveys previously, worked for a company that designs survey software, so I'm very familiar with how few people you'll get as respondents in many, many cases. One thing I am curious about, though, is the range of responses that come up in the what we heard slide. Given the pattern of the voters voting down debt exclusions and things like that, I'm surprised I don't see anything here specifically to that, to the cost of it, and to the ability of the town to afford this. Can you tell me what kind of feedback you got along those lines?
We can share the survey results. I don't have them committed to memory, but there was a question that was based on priorities, and it wasn't like pick 1 out of 5. It was, you could pick multiple choices, and maximizing the MSBA reimbursement was one that showed up quite a bit. I made sure that I added that in my memo that I sent to you on Friday, and it was in my opening remarks. And then also just making sure that we are trying to stay as cost effective as possible. To be fair, there was not a question that says, if there is a debt exclusion, will you support this? We weren't going to put that out there just yet.
I can imagine you wouldn't, and I know what I think. In terms of the different schemes that are, I feel weird using that word, but that's the word here, that are put forth here, which, in terms of on this sheet, which option are we looking at as the preferred? I may have missed that.
Sure, it's
So
three
one-
B, yep,
3B?
new
Yeah.
construction three B. Sorry if I didn't emphasize that, when I was speaking to the slide, but three B, new construction,
And that's what this is right here.
and that's what that is, exactly.
So that, one of the things that the school building committee was very concerned about was if we could try to avoid throwing away $11 million on modulars during construction, because modulars are a sensitive subject around our elementary school. But when you have to phase construction in such a way with an addition renovation that you are using modulars, in most cases, the money that you invest in them, you will not recoup. You maybe recoup a fraction of it when the construction period was over. And so that was one of the priorities for the school building committee. So this particular preferred option that the school building committee chose unanimously was the highest on the selection index. It is the most effective, most cost effective, but also it was, it met that other criteria as well.
So looking at the column total project cost range, 118 to 123 million. Let's say we split the difference, call it 120. What are we looking at? How much grant money are we looking to see, and how much is really going to fall to the taxpayers?
Okay, so to answer that question, the Mass School Building Authority has a document that you populate, and they have us do it at this next iteration coming up. The end of schematic design, we'll put together what they call a total project scope and budget. And so it has the schedule, it's a robust schematic design. It's almost at a design development level, I venture to say maybe 50% complete. So there's enough information there to put a finer point on the pricing and to understand. As Tina said earlier, this is conceptual at this stage, and now because there's been one option, narrowed to one option, that's going to be developed. And then it will give us the opportunity to really understand more borings and test pits, what's underground. What's the foundation? Can we go with wood versus steel? Will that be less money? So we'll go through a process here where we can put a finer point on that, and we will develop it that it's quote unquote a total project cost. Okay, and so what will happen there is after that's developed and submitted to the Mass School Building Authority, they will have what they call a conference, a total project budget conference. And so some folks here will be at that conference, and they will say these are the costs that are excluded. Now, some costs are approved costs, but they have caps on it. So they say, we're willing to pay this, but we're going to cap your construction at $605 a square foot. Okay, and so the good news, and I have to look more into this, but the state is looking at increasing that another $20 per square foot, which is significant money. And then we're going to look at those strategies in terms of the IRA tax credits, which they're in existence now. I'm on a project where it's going to be significant reimbursement. It's a little more than twice as big as this project. So as long as those programs remain intact, we're exercising all the strategies available to us to try and pull in as much money to offset the cost to the community.
And just one thing that I'll say just to kind of punctuate that is that, when I stood before the Board of Selectmen back in April of 2023, when we submitted the statement of interest, one of the words that I used at that time was transparency. And one of the things that we want to make sure that we do, and we'll work with Mr. Fataco and his team at Town Hall, is once we do get a sense of how much reimbursement we would qualify for, then we want to start sharing what the tax impacts would be in the event that the vote did pass.
If it does pass, when are we looking to quote unquote break ground on this?
May 3rd, 2028.
May 2020.
We'll be doing some enabling where we'll be putting fences up on site and segregating construction, making sure that there's proper circulation for access to both buildings. And then there's other work that goes along with that. Geothermal would be one of the first things that would start. And we anticipate occupancy being around August 17th, 2030.
So if this is going to potentially, assumedly, go to a vote in the spring, when are we going to know some reasonably solid numbers to base our voting on?
We'll have estimates coming in that will be reviewed with the school building committee on June 18th and June 25th. I'm sorry, January 18th, the other J, I'm sorry. In January of 2027, we'll have that information. It will be shared with the school building committee. We'll, options. One of the nice things that is very appropriate is that we will go through a reconciliation process. PM&C will do an estimate. Skanska will do an estimate. Okay, and those two estimates will be reconciled. Okay, because we want to go in with a level of certainty that whatever that number is going in to the Mass School Building Authority, February 25th, 2027, that will stand the test of time for closeout in 2031.
Thank you. That's all the questions.
They will be telling us in February, March? How much
Sometime in March, they'll tell us, but we will have the estimates of what we believe the costs are. But it will take that project scope and budget conference to understand what their maximum participation is. And then we'll say, if they tell you your maximum, I'm making up a number, is 45 million. Okay, that means if you spend every penny and everything is approved, but if you don't spend every penny and you're saving money, then you're not gonna get that 45 million. You're gonna get something less because you didn't spend as much money. I know it's a little counterintuitive, but it is how the grant works.
Let's say all your numbers are accurate and it's a go, and when would it hit the tax rolls? Before construction?
I would have to defer to.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes about, after the vote, about 2 or 3 years to hit tax rolls, because then it'll, if you remember the process with
List of premise.
List of premise, they go through bands,
Yep.
bond anticipation notes,
Right.
and then finalization will be about 2 years, 2 to 3
Okay.
years after the vote.
All right. I'm sorry, I didn't want to jump in.
Ralph, how long would this be being paid for? Is it a 30-year?
We're basically in a 30 year.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
I just wanted to mention, you mentioned transparency and communication. There, for folks at home who might not know much about the project, we do have a project website, and there's our meetings are on there. We have all of the slideshows. There's lots of pictures. I've been very impressed by Mary Ann and our design team and our superintendent. I feel, as a member on the committee, that you guys have been so thorough. I feel like we are just in the best of hands. You guys have anticipated every question and need, and I can tell you guys are truly the subject matter experts on this. So I felt super comfortable. But for everything that you kind of mentioned tonight, just quickly, the school building committee has deliberated on for hours and hours and hours. So we have tons of meetings. If there's certain things that interest you, whether it's the different properties throughout town or what the criteria was or all of the different options that we had, everything's online and available to view. And meetings are open to the public. We welcome you, and we there's so much information out there on how we arrived to this point. So I just thank you guys for making it a nice, easy, seamless process, and I feel like communication was key, and it has been done very well. We've had open houses, and you guys did try to get creative with communication doing the survey link, and it wasn't just online. There was paper versions throughout the town, so lots of opportunities to get feedback. So thank you for that. Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
That's all I have. Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have our police chief, George Nichols, here to discuss the strong chief designation, MGL, chapter 41, section 97A. Hi, chief.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good evening.
Through the chair, if I may say something before we begin. I just want to remind the board that this is not a vote this evening to enact this strong chief policy. This is a discussion by the chief to explain the process to the board, how that goes about. Just as a quick reminder, for the town of Dayton to accept this policy, it needs to accept MGL Chapter 4197A at a town meeting. So we have a town meeting coming up in September, and I think this was a good opportunity. The chief and I have been talking about this. I know he's expressed a desire for it, so now's a good opportunity to bring it up and start the discussion. So
this is not a review, discuss, and act.
it would be, well, we could discuss act and to support would be placed on the warrant.
Okay.
I'm sorry, if I can,
Yeah.
can you give us just a synopsis of the MGL Chapter 41 section?
That's why a chief is here, right?
Yeah, I leave that to the chief. I don't want to steal his thunder on that.
Okay, so there's two MGL sections in Mass, MGL section 97 and 97A. 97 is the weak chief, which I'm currently in right now, and past chiefs have been the same. The elected selectmen retain the direct power to regulations governing the police department and its officers. And under 97A, under the strong chief language, it cites that policy regulation making responsibility belong to the professional police chief and pending other select board approvals. So obviously, like hiring and things like that would obviously still have to figure out stuff within the budget of hiring full-time officers and whatnot. Some of the bullets that would clarify what the chief's already been doing. So I'll just start off by saying that the purpose of this proposal is to get clear authority and clear accountability and clear chain of command within the department. That's why going to all the chiefs meetings and stuff and educating myself with the rules and regs of chiefs, and then becoming a part of the executive board of Southeastern Chiefs in Massachusetts, rubbed elbows with chiefs all over the state. And when these conversations come up with trainings and whatnot, it's always been, favorable more for chiefs to be a strong chief versus a weak chief, basically because it makes a clear-cut chain of command for your officers and leadership within the department. Going forward, it also, it's a responsibility and authority should go hand in hand. If I'm already doing the roles and responsibilities of a strong chief, which past chiefs have done as well, I figured this would be an opportunity to bring it up to say, hey, look, we've been doing the roles, we've been doing all these things that a strong chief does. Why not have the title as well? I've grown as a chief. I've been to many leadership classes. I'm a trilogy recipient for the trilogy of FBI leader training, which were 3 steps, which were FBI supervisor, FBI command, FBI executive. I've been through all that trainings. I'm a certified MPTC instructor to teach classes within in the state of Massachusetts, as well as teaching use of force and taser and all the years that I've done that, as well as teaching the FTO program and stuff, growing from a sergeant to a pretty much role of a lieutenant when I was filling in as number 2 under the former chief, and then becoming acting chief and now the chief. So I just think it's, like I said, it's a good look for the department. It's a good professional look for the department. It helps with, you know, when you're trying to move personnel around to be able to make clear-cut, precise decisions on, you know, wanting to hire even part-timers or full-timers. It just helps the process move along faster.
You should be doing that anyway.
What's that?
You should be doing that anyway.
But under the weak chief section, it doesn't allow me to do that technically under the MGL.
Chief, I just wanted to point out, I know I talked to you about this a few months ago, and you mentioned that you had been working with Ralph and HR to follow the process and do it the right way, to make sure that you can engage, you know, our office and the town and be collaborative and make sure that everyone can, all the stakeholders can have an engaged discussion. So I know we're a little ahead of town meeting, but I just wanted to point out that you being here tonight was, you know, it shows your leadership that you are trying to work with all of the stakeholders and make sure we can make an informed decision. So I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Ralph for keeping the discussion going and the conversation going and doing your research on this.
This is not about a position of power to an individual. This proposal should be viewed as giving additional power to the current chief and future chief. So this isn't based just, once this is something voted on as making a strong chief, it's just not designated to myself. It would hold, you know, for chiefs to come in the future as well.
Absolutely. So my opinion, if you don't mind, I believe that I think it makes sense to accept Chapter 41, Section 97A. Right now we have an inequity amongst the fire chief and the police chief. So a previous board, decades ago, supported it, and I think our fire chief has done a fantastic job and shown that he can do the strong chief and show, you know, he shows his leadership. He always communicates with the board on his appointments, and I just think the chief of police is better positioned to make determinations on who they're going to hire, promote. You know, you're going to know who's the most fit, has the most rigid background, and who's going to fit amongst the department. I feel elected boards can be subject to influence that might not be in the best interest of the police department. As one member of the Board of Selectmen, that's my opinion. And I think as the appointed department head, I think it just makes sense for you to be able to manage your department. You're sworn to your duties to, you know, faithfully and impartially discharge those duties. So why can't you run your department like others do? So it just makes sense to me. I think it's a long time coming, and it's good timing because we have plenty of time before our special to discuss it. And I think it would show you know, and the future chiefs, you know, the trust that we have in your department. And it's not like the Board of Selectmen is losing control. We still would put a recommendation forth at town meeting for the number that you budgeted for your office, you know, for your rank file. So we would still, you know, deliberate on your budget, and of course the townspeople have the ultimate say anyways on that, right? We can recommend all day, but it's ultimately the taxpayer's decision. So we can still choose the number of police officers and at least what we recommend. And I think it also leads to a more efficient government because we wouldn't be going through the board for that. You can utilize your judgment and get a good hiring procedure internally. So I think it's more efficient too than going in front of the board. So those are my thoughts. Any comments from my colleagues?
I'm concerned about future chiefs. Certainly. But I want to just clear, this is not a vote to make Chief Nichols a strong chief. This is gonna go to a town meeting.
Town meeting, it's not, again, for clarification, this is the strong chief is for the position, it's not for the individual.
Right.
The strong chief, the only way to get a strong chief designation is to accept MGL 4197A, and that can only occur at
A town
only
meeting.
town meeting has the authority to
Sure.
do that.
I'm all for letting the public decide. I don't necessarily agree with everything. I appreciate your effort, certainly, but I also think that we have to plan for the future. It's something we won't be here, and we might not want the next chief to be a strong chief. They might not have the capabilities, and if we're locked into that, that concerns me.
I just have one comment on
Sure.
that. The Board of Selectmen would still retain the authority to appoint the next chief of police.
Oh, absolutely.
So if we didn't feel they were capable, I hope future boards wouldn't appoint them.
But if the public should decide, then it doesn't matter to me. I'd give them that benefit.
And again, to put a point, our discussions, you know, the chief just didn't want to put it on the article, you know, it shows
Sure.
up in
absolutely.
October, let's vote on it. And, you know, to his credit, he wanted to have a discussion.
Yeah, thank you for doing it the right way.
Thank you, listen.
Any comments?
I don't think so.
Okay. Is there a motion to vote on the town meeting
I'll
board?
make that motion.
Is there a second? I'll step down second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2 ayes, 1 abstain, I imagine. Motion carries. Fantastic. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Get the first official article.
Alrighty. Next we have review, discuss, act, appointment of Donna Gilbride as library aide. Hi, Mark.
Oh,
Welcome.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
All right. So we had a vacant page position. We put out the application and we had it posted for 2 weeks. And in that time, we had, I believe it was 13 or 14 applicants, which was great because we got a really strong applicant pool. We called in 10 to interview, which is great because that's what you want. The downside, of course, is when you're interviewing a strong applicant pool, you have a lot of strong applicants to choose from, and it makes the decision really tough. But that's the job. So, but that's also good because they are going to get a very strong candidate. And I selected Donna after all the interviews. And the Board of Trustees agreed that that they liked my decision. They approved it at their last meeting. And there she's even standing. She didn't want to come up here. I said, don't worry, I'll come up to the podium.
I'll come up if you want me to come up.
We'd love to see you. Absolutely.
She's standing. Okay, all right. She
Welcome.
told me she didn't want to come up.
Hello.
Hello. What attracted you to the town of Dayton?
I moved to Dayton 9 years ago. We lived in
Okay.
East Bridgewater. We wanted a small little country town, so we chose Dayton.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's been 9 years. The first thing I did is hooked up at the library.
Awesome.
Met Phyllis. Yeah, loved it.
Phyllis is amazing.
She is. She was
Yes.
great. And I've been a library person ever since.
Awesome. What are you most excited about doing at the library?
Helping out. I love reading.
Mhm.
So,
That helps.
yeah, I do. I read book after book after book.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Any comments, questions?
No. I'm glad you applied, and if Mark thinks you're okay, so do I.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Both marks do. Any motions?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion carries. Welcome.
Thank you
Welcome.
very much.
Thank you.
Can we take a picture with you? Is that okay? Can we have a picture?
Oh, geez.
We love to give a warm welcome. Is that okay? All right, great. And with Phyllis too, of course. Come on.
Right up here?
Yes, please. Ralph? Go ahead, I'm the whole team.
Oh, boy.
Easier.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ralph's
happened?
move, Ralph's move.
Ralph Bike.
Ralph's move. Got it, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Well
you very
done.
much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Appointments are always the best part of the meeting. Okay. I don't. I really don't. But anytime I'm going to be wonderful. Yeah. All right, announcements. All you.
Announcements. I know that. All right, quite a few announcements tonight. Rick Keller from Perfect Pastime is offering a community-wide collectibles free appraisal event on Saturday, August 29th from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at the Dayton Public Library. Call the library at 508-669-6421 to register for your free 10-minute time slot. The Dayton Lions Club Food Bank will be held next Saturday, September 19th, 2026, located at the Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue, lower level. The Battle of Dayton, celebrating 250 years of independence, sponsored by the Town of Dayton 250th Anniversary Committee for America, and hosted by the 13th Continental Regiment, will take place on Saturday, September 26th from 10 to 4, and Sunday, September 27th, 10 to 3, at Woods Farm, 1326 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Massachusetts. Enjoy a free, family-friendly event. No pets, please. Watch American Revolution-style battles and tour colonial-era camp life. The Open Space Committee and the Parks and Recreation Commission are planning a town cleanup day for Saturday, October 3rd from 8:30 a.m. to noon. We have chosen several sites, and we can't do this without the help of our neighbors, residents, and friends. If you or anyone you know would be interested in volunteering to help beautify our town, please volunteer on October 3rd. If you would like to sign up or would like more information, please contact the Open Space Committee at openspace@dayton-ma.org or call Jonathan Gale to learn more at 781-254-3297. The Dayton Open Space Committee has one open committee member position that they would like to fill as soon as possible. If you or anyone you know is interested in helping Dayton preserve our open spaces while considering the growth and needs of our town, then please apply by visiting our town's website at Employment and Volunteer Opportunities, Dayton, Massachusetts, and fill out the volunteer application. If you would like to learn more, please contact the chairperson, Jonathan Gale, at 781-254-3297. The Dayton Commission on Disabilities has several openings for residents who care about disability services and resources in Dayton and who would like to get involved to help all our residents with what they and our town need. If you are interested in becoming a commission member, please visit the town's website at Employment and Volunteer Opportunities, Dayton, Massachusetts, and fill out our volunteer application. Or just to learn more, contact the acting chair, Jonathan Gale, at 781-254-3297. The Dayton 40B or Fair Housing Committee has been dormant for several years, and it's time to bring it back. As our town grows, we need to find workable solutions that will support our town's needs for affordable housing, not just for our new younger residents, but for those older residents who are aging out of their homes but want to keep living in Dayton. If you are interested in becoming involved on a committee that will help shape the future of Dayton, then visit the 40B Fair Housing Committee. This is the committee for you. To apply and learn more, please visit the volunteer page at Employment and Volunteer Opportunities, Dayton, Mass. Or to learn more, please contact Jonathan Gale at 781-254-3297. I think a number of those were supposed to be websites, but they're not presented that way on here, so I'm not exactly sure what they should be read as.
Right. Okay. next we have our first of two public inputs. So before we begin, I just want to let the public know that public input cannot be about any specific public employee. They can be made general in nature, but you can't mention any public employees by name. And according to the Town of Dayton's Policy and Procedure Manual, the chair has the right to ask for concise and non-repetitive statements. That's within the purview of the chair. So with that, is there anyone here for public input?
Me, please.
Sir.
You have to go first? No, you go first. I heard in the rules you asked not to name anybody by name, but does that also mean complimentary? I'm in long-term recovery and I believe in warm seating, and there was a few people that I wanted to highlight for excellence here.
No derogatory statements of any public employee.
Heard. Before I open up, I'd like to point out 4 people in particular that work for the town. With what I do for work, I've been able to audit the town in numerous different ways, and I've seen 4 people excel in excellence. 2 from our police department and 2 from our town hall. I'm going to start with our town hall. Ralph being one of them, and town clerk Shara being the next. I'd also like to emphasize Officer Sergeant McGann, and a strong emphasis on Dispatcher Costa. For all of 4 of them lead their roles with love and excellence. Just want that to be known. I came here today to read a statement pertaining to one of the motions on the docket tonight. It says, statement to the Dayton Board of Selectmen regarding the strong chief designation. Good evening, Chairman and members of the Board of Selectmen. My name is Brian Keeson, and I appropriate the opportunity to address the board tonight regarding the proposed appointment of Chief George Nichols as strong chief under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 97A. I want to begin by making something very clear. I am not here tonight because I expect this board to decide the merits of my personal disputes with the Dayton Police Department. I'm not asking you to take my word over the word of the police officer. I'm asking you to pause. Over the past several months, I have repeatedly attempted to have serious concerns addressed by the Dayton Police Department. I have documented instances which I believe have been ignored. Statements made about me by officers were inaccurate and contradicted by video evidence, and the police powers were used against me in circumstances that I believe are retaliatory. I have disputed those allegations publicly, and I have preserved evidence supporting my position. I have also attempted to resolve these issues without having to bring them to court. Unfortunately, those attempts have not produced the resolution I have been looking for. As a result, I am now preparing to pursue legal action concerning these matters. And that brings me directly to the decision sitting before this board tonight. Why make this decision right now? Why not wait? There is no emergency requiring the board to make a decision. If litigation is imminent concerning allegations involving the town, its police department, and the conduct of officers under the chief's command, I believe the responsible course of action is to allow these issues to be addressed before potentially expanding the chief's authority. I'm not asking the board to prejudge my lawsuit. In fact, I'm asking you to do the opposite. Don't prejudge anything. Don't assume that I'm right. Don't assume that the police are right. Let the evidence speak for itself. Let the legal process run its course. And then, once those issues have been addressed, this board can revisit whether granting this designation is appropriate. Because from where I am standing, approving this tonight creates an appearance problem that could have been completely avoided simply by waiting. The public should not have to wonder whether the town government expanded the authority of a police chief while serious allegations concerning the department were simultaneously headed toward litigation. This isn't personal. It's about public confidence. A police chief has enormous responsibility. With that responsibility comes an equally important obligation for transparency, accountability, and public trust. And when citizens come before you saying, I believe your department has wronged me, I have evidence supporting my claims, and I am preparing those claims before court, I believe the prudent response is not to rush forward. The prudent response is, let's wait until we know more. I have spent a significant amount of time documenting what has happened to me. I have recordings, I have reports, I have communications, I have preserved evidence that I believe will be relevant to the legal proceedings I am preparing to bring, and I intend to put that evidence before the appropriate forum. I also want to make clear that I am not here tonight to threaten this board, threaten the chief, or threaten the Dayton police. I am here to exercise my right to speak before my elected officials. I have been told in one way or another to be quiet before. I have been ignored. I have been characterized. I have been written about in official reports, and I've watched allegations made about me that I believe can disprove with my own recordings. Excuse me. But none of that changes the fact that I am still standing here, and I will continue to stand here, because government authority should never be so powerful that citizens become afraid to question it. So tonight, I am respectfully asking every member of this board, please table this decision. Wait until the pending legal issues have been addressed. Give the courts opportunity to examine my evidence. Give the town opportunity to respond through the proper legal channels, and then come back and decide whether a strong chief designation is appropriate based on the complete picture, not while serious allegations involving the department remain unresolved. You don't have to agree with me tonight. You don't have to believe everything that I said. You don't have to believe that I will ultimately prevail in court, but you can agree that waiting is a responsible thing to do. Because once additional authority is granted, you can't simply pretend the concerns that existed before never happened. I came here tonight because I believe accountability matters. And whether you agree with me or not, I hope the board will remember one thing. The people who ask the uncomfortable questions aren't the enemy of the government. Sometimes they're the reason government remains accountable for the people it serves. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Any other public input? Yes, sir.
Brand Cedrone, Lincoln
Right up
Avenue.
here.
Yeah, I know. I watch it on TV and I hate when people don't come up to the podium.
Good.
And I almost did it. Brand Cedrone, Lincoln Avenue. I came before this board a few weeks ago, and in regards to a public safety issue on Lincoln Avenue in North Dayton, I made a suggestion of some stop signs on the street, and it was pointed out to me, rightfully so, thank you, that you can't use stop signs to enforce speed limits. But in lieu of that, I would like a couple things. I would like a raised crosswalk at Lincoln Village so that it's easier for older folks. I'm not there yet, but so it's easier for older folks to be at eye level with traffic, and it also forces cars to stop, well, to slow down. Obviously, if someone's in an intersection, they have to stop already. But even if there's nobody in it, they'd have to slow down when they come to these speed humps, or what I prefer to call a raised crosswalk. I'd also like one at School Street as well. But I'm open to discussion.
Okay.
Obviously with signage pertaining to this. You know, I could go to the housing authority and talk to them, but I don't think I have to do that. I would rather come here. Okay?
Okay.
I
We'll
know
have
the
it
I know
under
the police
discussion.
department has collected some records. They have a little black box that records people, and they had a speed sign that indicates your speed and the speed limit up for quite a while.
Thank you. Any other public input? Yes.
Hi, Lorna Cedrone, Bryn's wife, Lincoln Ave.
Fantastic.
Just as a resident on that street, into Officer Nichols, it's getting ridiculous. The speeders are just, nobody does 30 on Lincoln Ave, nobody. And we did have an officer sit a couple of times up at the park, but it was like at 11 o'clock when nobody was going by. We need somebody there in the morning when people are going to work, and in the evening when people are coming home. We have these pickup trucks that are just, zooming by. And one day, my sister and I yelled at one to slow down. And he, it was a diesel, I guess, and he stepped on the gas and all this black smoke came up. There's like no respect. You know, I got I got a loudspeaker thing, and which had an alarm on it, and I was going to use that, but Brand says you can't use that. You know.
I was afraid there'd be an
So I didn't, I was a good girl. But I'm begging Officer Nichols to please do something about it, because somebody's gonna get hurt.
Well, the board will discuss it in the town administrator report. So
Awesome,
we'll discuss
awesome. Thank
the
you.
study and the recommendations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other public input? Anyone on Zoom? I have some public input. I guess I just have to say that I respect the public's right to free speech. However, I think it's disgraceful to post videos and pictures of our public servants in this disparaging way to get to discredit the employees who work for the town, and I think it's a poor reflection on that person's character. There's different ways you can air your grievances, and if taking to social media and disparaging our hardworking employees is the way you want to go, that's your right. I respect it. I respect it, but I think it's disgraceful too. At the same time, town administrator report.
Thank you. There were a few things for this town administrator's report. If I could ask for the first one with the assistance of the chief and superintendent, Mr. Ferry. First up was Lincoln Avenue. At last time, my public comment, Mr. Sigroni came up, so we took a look at it with the chief and the superintendent to see if we could do some speed mitigation. First thing the chief provided in your packet was a speed study along Lincoln Avenue. It was conducted for a period of approximately one week. It encompassed slightly over 5,000 cars. As you know, Lincoln Avenue, the speed limit is 30 miles per hour. The average speed going down Lincoln Avenue at that time was 33 miles per hour. The slow speed going past that was 7 miles an hour, and and probably include what the residents had just said. The fastest speed they saw was 57 miles per hour. 85% of the cars that traveled down there went 38 miles per hour or less. So 38 miles per hour or less in a 30 mile per hour. It has an enforcement rating of low, and I hope Chief, if you could speak to enforceable violations out of the 5,023, there are 381 speed violations, and enforcement rating is low. So I think the Chief could give you a better understanding of what those stats mean.
Okay, so as you see on the top of the sheet, July 20th to July 27th, we put the box on the pole. It's a calibrated radar box that we bought under grant money 2 years ago. We put it all over town. We run them for a week at a time to figure out where the problems are in town. When these complaints have come up, and I don't deny, and I've seen it for myself, I know speeding's an issue. Speeding's an issue in a lot of streets in town because Dayton has nice roads and they're straight, and people that live in town know the roads and they're gonna speed. I mean, it comes with the territory. I hate to say it, I hate to admit, but we put the sign out there, the radar trailer as well, to let people know, it's your speed. And then I had the box put out there for that week time. Those infractions are speeding violations. We have assigned cruisers out there to put, to run radar, but what happens when you put a marked car out there? People flash the lights. It's called a halo effect. People slow down. The opportunity of writing tickets and enforcing kind of get diminished in a sense. So like I was telling Sergeant McGann, just keep at it and keep consistent, just putting cars out there when we can. Being short as far as guys, and for 4 to 12, we're finally just starting to get a third guy back on the road. He's still in FTO training. and staffing has, always been the issue. We're trying to get a guy out there, be more consistent on day shift and evening shift during the rush hour times to try to keep enforcing traffic.
How many citations did you issue?
The last time that we ran, there was like a less than a handful of citations issued because of, again, people flashing their lights. It's just it's a very, very minute number on, and it's speeding. And of course, when you stop a car, there might be a few other infractions, inspection stickers and other minor things, but nothing crazy. But it did come back as a low enforceable rating. The fastest speed was 57, and that could have been vehicle you've seen, and the average speed is 38 miles per hour. Sometimes cars going by at 40 may seem like they're going faster, but I'm not going to deny the fact that speeding is an issue on that street. I've, as a patrolman, wrote plenty of tickets on Lincoln Avenue, and I would say there's that street. There's a few others in town that speed.
It's used as a cut through.
It is used as a cut through, and I agree with you.
What is your thoughts on the raised crosswalk?
So a raised crosswalk would be like a speed hump.
Speed hump.
Yeah. I've discussed these with Mr. Ferry in the past. We've discussed them, we've brainstormed it. I've actually reached out to several other communities where I've traveled through to find out about what they're doing, and I've submitted some literature to the town administrator. Temporary speed humps, they're out there. I've talked to the Middletown deputy superintendent a while back to ask what, because I was cutting through their town to go to a facility there, and I said, wow, do those really work? Are they effective? And they extremely effective, but they put them down in April, and then they take them up just before Veterans Day. Mm-hmm. Obviously, for snow removal and all that other things, they're just rubber and they're anchored into the ground. A raised crosswalk, I think, would be a permanent thing. It would obviously have to be a broader than a speed bump. I don't think it would be necessarily a bad thing, but obviously we're talking money and whatnot. But I think it would definitely enforce some of the speeding on that road, would slow traffic down. I know the talks about putting stop signs on that road. I definitely don't think that's a viable solution to the problem, because now you're going to get people that are ticked off at the situation, and now you're going to have the stop and then the peeling out effect, and then people are going to be upset that people are peeling out at the stop sign. So I would lean more towards the raised crosswalk in that area, maybe putting up like the solar flashing crosswalk signs when people are crossing. I think those are pretty viable. I see them in other communities. And then maybe looking at the other areas that we have in town, of maybe like the lower part of Main Street. We've had complaints on the seasonal people in and out of the yacht clubs. Maybe try doing a temporary speed hump down there to see how effective they are before we start spending money all over town.
I think what we wanted to look at is sort of present to the board one of the options as the temporary speed hump. I was informed by Superintendent Ferry that permanent speed humps, especially on a street like Lincoln Avenue, is a collector street. So he could probably explain that better, and that we can we're limited to what we could put in terms of humps, or speed pads. One of the things, as you see in the report, one speed pad is a cushion is approximately $6,000. So we would have to, if it's the pleasure of the board, to have us look into it as how are we going to implement it? What should we include this in our capital planning? I mean, how many speed cushions should we buy? What is the criteria for putting down speed cushions? If we look at Lincoln Avenue, and we did the Dayton Police Department did a speed check on it. It comes out as low. Does that warrant a speed cushion? As if Main Street comes out higher, it comes out high or medium, then the speed cushion for Lincoln Avenue should go to the one that has a higher rate of speed violations. So it's something we have to look at if we choose to continue to follow up on this. And I think we will just keep it on the back burner, and it's up to the Board of Selectmen. Is this something we want to start implementing as a town?
What are the thoughts of the board? Any discussion on this?
I don't know what the answer is. People speed all over town. When somebody's coming down your street at 45 miles an hour, it might not be 50 something, but or be the average, but you still get upset if they're going that fast.
Oh, no, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think speed bumps or humps, whatever you want to call them, are going to be the answer. How many people use that as a crosswalk now? Does it warrant a crosswalk?
There's a good amount of folks that cross that street. They walk down because I don't think they can smoke on the premises of the property, so they
Okay.
walk down the road.
Yep.
I don't see a ton of foot traffic, but I see a good amount of people. You know, obviously nice when other people want to be out and about. They're walking down to the riverbed, right by the old factory there.
Yeah.
Paradise. See people walking down there all the time. Whether or not they're coming out of Lincoln Village, I don't know. But a speed hump, I mean, if you put it in, obviously it costs money to install, but nothing has to be permanent. You can always take it out later on too. I mean, would it be a waste of money? Of course it'd be a waste of money, but what are the, I mean, I don't know what the resolutions are either. I mean, I'm not the total expert on it, but I mean, I don't
We'll be
think.
putting them all over town if we put a speed bump.
Exactly. I've seen them in Attleboro, I've seen them I've seen them in Rhode Island, and I've reached out to folks in towns because I know we have a problem, and I've emailed folks, and they've gotten good results from them. Obviously, things of concern of like stormwater and snow removal come to mind. Again, Mr. Ferry and I have spoken on this several different times, and that's his main concern. Obviously, trying to clear the roads. So then, seeing these temporary ones where they pre-anchor into the ground, like wow, this seems like a pretty good idea. And they're based on, as Mr. Patako was saying, the width of the road. They come in sections. So how many sections would we need? Would we only need to maybe put 3 in a lane and offset them and then put the signage in? I mean, at least maybe it would be a positive look as, hey, the town's trying to enforce the speed rate. So,
And the cost is minimal on those, and the installation's easy.
and then you put them in April, and then take them up again, say November 1st.
Well, through the chair, if I may, that the initial cost for one speed cushion is minimal, but we have to look how many do we need. And let's face it, we'll fall upon our highway department to install them,
Sure.
take them up, to store them, put them back, to maintain them. So a lot of factors involved. Not saying no, but a lot of things to consider.
Yes. Yeah. Any comments on?
It's not a perfect remedy, but as someone who lives on a street that the speed is frequently abused, Pleasant Street, I know exactly the pain. I think doing something is certainly better than doing nothing.
I just got a question, like Dayton Rehoboth High School, they have a speed
Can you
bump.
come up to the podium,
Sure.
please? I want to be consistent.
Sorry about that. Dave Mama, 102 Forest Street, North Dayton. I know when I go up to DR High School, there is a speed bump up tar. And if you go a certain speed, you're gonna lose your rear end. And every time I go up there, my wife gets nervous, like, we go up to that speed bump, I'm gonna take out our car. And I think people really think twice. Maybe they got it up there because of the younger age of drivers, just to remind them. But I know, we got a sign posted for 30 miles per hour on Forest Street. Lenny gave us a hand with that. And once in a while, I still get trucks flying by, and a lot of people would be like trying to walk the smaller kids down the street. And it's a shame the way some of these people drive. If they just slow down and just take it easy.
I personally think it's one of the larger, it's not a earth-shaking problem, but it does seem to be an ever-present problem in Dayton, is the speeds. I noticed it when I moved into Dayton, that personally I think many of the speed limits are much higher than I would have expected or honestly preferred. I find myself driving around relatively slow because I find the speed limits to be a little higher than they really ought to be in many cases. But in the case of Lincoln Street, I think I'd be certainly before would be in favor of the removable one. I think those are going to be a little bit more, have a little more longevity, I think, than a permanent tar asphalt hump.
Yeah, and you mentioned cut-throughs, and that's what the town of Middletown did, is they put them in their cut-through town, streets, because the people that are cutting through don't care, right? They don't live on the street, they don't care, their families aren't there. So where the beaches were is one of those streets that I saw, and that's when I reached out and spoke to Mr. Matako about, hey, this might not be the best solution, but it may be a good solution to try to minimize the speed. If you put maybe one out and then maybe put a second out on the road to, like I said, slow the traffic down in the critical areas of the street, I mean, why not? You don't know if you don't try.
Yeah.
And that's what the Middletown deputy superintendent told me. We didn't know until we tried. And the outcome of it, when they put the first one in, they obviously put the signage in, it was super effective, and then they put 2 more out. And now the town of Middletown has an order for $40,000 in speed humps because it is so effective through the town. So, but that was the feedback I got when I did my research to try to come up with answers to try to figure out, hey, how can we slow these folks down? Because again, putting a marked cruiser out there, yep, you may get 1, 2, 3. I wrote a lot of tickets in my career, a lot of tickets, and you know, you get the same. Sometimes you get the residents that live on the street, believe it or not, and sometimes you get the out of towners for the majority of the time. But how many speeders do you get? You know, when the people are flashing their lights. You know, so. But if you put the structures out there to slow them down all the time, they're not going to have a choice to slow down, cruiser or not.
Again, I think if this is something the board wants us to continue to pursue, we have to come up with a policy on, so we have to review purchase of speed cushions, but we definitely have to come up with a policy as to where to place these. Because again, you know, if Main Street is a high speed violation, and I'm not here to pick on Lincoln, and Lincoln is a low, and we just can't put it on Lincoln because they came before the selectmen and asked, you know, if the need is identified at someplace else in town, we have to put it where it would be most effective.
I agree with you, and I think we do need a policy. However, I think that's our only housing authority in town, Lincoln Village. So it seems to make sense to me that a housing authority would be one that would be, I mean, if we have lowest, maybe it's rated low on the enforcement, but it is a housing authority. We have some elderly folks there, and it seems like a minimal cost for safety.
I mean, I like what you said. I mean, we can't just put it anywhere somebody cries wolf or whatever, but by the same token, the people who live on the street know better than anyone, you know, what the traffic's like and what the speeds are like and things like that. So it may very well actually be a reasonable indicator of where they're needed. I mean, have we heard similar requests or complaints and things like that from Main Street, or is this
Main Street in the lower section by the playground? There's been a few, and I know Mr. Coster, former fire chief, has been in several times to complain about in that section of Main Street after the library going down to the boatyards that the people just they don't have a regard. They're flying down the hill into the boatyard. And I know the Shaw's boatyard put a speed bump in there years back, but the minute they cross that one speed bump, they're hitting the gas up the hill they go and then flying down into the.
Well, that's my thought. How many speed bumps do you put on the road? Because you're going to speed up into it, you're going to slow down for, 20 feet? And then pick the speed back up again.
So my only concern on that road was by the playground.
Right.
There is a playground there. There are a lot of kids, especially during the summertime when there's no school in session. A lot of kids tend to migrate to that playground. And there's a baseball field there too. So how often that's used, I don't know. But there is parking across the street. People are crossing the road to go to the town playground and ball field. So that's where I would place it. Not the same. I mean, you're right. You can't put how many 5 or 6 on the street, but in the vital areas of the road.
Well, that's why I like the idea of the crosswalk. It's where the need is.
Absolutely.
That might be the basis of the policy. elderly housing, playgrounds, things of that nature, it might be a good idea to build around there.
At least it'll slow the traffic down in those vital areas.
So what is the board thinking?
I like the raised crosswalk.
I think that's more of a question
For Tom.
Yeah, Mr. Ferry for the raise, I don't know.
Rachel's first.
If we could
No,
do
second.
that. I would ask, obviously, it's not you discuss that, but if you direct me to, looking for some direction on which way you want me to go, I'll be happy to do it. Again, as a collector street, I don't know if you can put a raised crosswalk there, but we could definitely, if it is the will of the board to direct me to take a look at speed cushions, we can do that and come up with some costing and see if we could implement that. And how many do we need in some identifiable areas where speeding hazards are more, maybe not higher speeds, but the demographic of it warrants it.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Ferry?
Mr. Ferry, you willing to come up to the podium?
In your estimation, the difference between the temporary, the thick rubber ones that are removable and I guess a crosswalk would have to be asphalt, is that correct? I mean, I think that would make probably more sense. It's going to be safer for someone walking on it. It's going to be wider, is that correct? Or?
Yes.
I would think, you could, the last thing you'd want is to put down the rubber hump and have somebody trip on it and now you're dealing with.
Raised crosswalk would be wide enough so a wheelchair is not sliding off one side or the other.
Right.
So you have a flat surface.
Yeah.
So
And could you talk about the cost between the two, the asphalt and the rubber as well?
Well, that's still a loaded question. I do appreciate your whole family coming out tonight too, and everyone's hit on common concern throughout the whole town. I'm not totally disagreeing with police chief, but I have some concerns with the different devices that are out there. The devices that we were talking about tonight can't be used on curves or inclines, which Council of Aging is right on the incline, right at the crest of the hills, unfortunately. So we got to take a closer look at that. You can't just throw the device out there. We're throwing a device out there, there is some liability to it on our part too. So that's going to be considered. I do like the idea of the raised crosswalk, but the location might be a problem. The crosswalk itself might be away from the crest of the hill enough. It may be. I'm not sure on the distance. But the chief did hit on something like when they come out of saws, they goose it. And that's the problem the state has with all these speed bumps and humps, because it's called the slingshot effect. And also there's a lot of rear end collisions that happen because all of a sudden there's a speed bump, the car behind you doesn't realize it, and that's where they get the rear end collisions and or the slingshot effect, and they're gonna goose it. So I'm not sure we were thinking of putting it on Lincoln Ave, but it can't be near the curve or the crosswalk because of the hill there. So, and then also staggering them is a no-no too, because we don't want to encourage someone to leave their lane, because they will. You got to go all the way across if we're going to use it. Don't want to be stick in the mud, but I want to do it right.
Of course, the signage that tells you before you get there, if somebody's on their phone and they don't see the sign,
yes,
that's on them.
Right.
That's on them.
Speaking of signage, yes. So in the process, since our last meeting, we did find 2 missing signs on Lincoln Ave, speed signs, and those were reinstalled since then also.
Thank you.
I'd like to look at the crosswalk at Council of Aging, and I'm not sure it can go there.
It's the housing authority, correct, not the Council on Aging,
Yes, but
Lincoln Avenue,
you knew what I was talking about, though.
but that's not what the Council on Aging is.
I am going to surprise Ralph and Chief with this, and just to see where it is, because you guys would need, the request would have to come either the administrator or the board, because our state does not allow speed cameras, but it may be
enough to at least ask our representatives to see where the state is, if they have an appetite to explore that again.
I can tell you this speed cameras are extremely effective.
But they're not legal in our state though. And
They're not, they are in New York, they are not Massachusetts.
Right, so unique areas, it might, maybe at least ask the administrator to explore that with our reps to see if the state has the appetite to explore that, because I believe that our chief can explain why you have to go that direction. We can't just get them in that.
Right, yeah, understood.
And that would take care of a lot of problems if that was re-explored. I know that's looking at the bigger picture, but that would solve a lot of problems everywhere.
Yeah. I could see that being a solution, but not on my watch.
Yeah,
legal or not, that will never happen while I'm sitting here. I'll say it right now.
You've been late for supper, right? Yes.
I read 1984.
So I'm sorry I didn't directly answer your question.
No, that's fine. I appreciate it.
Asphalt, the price of asphalt to do 26-foot road, well, that one is probably 23 or 24-foot wide. And the width of it, you're probably looking at around 8 or 10 tons of asphalt, so $1,500 to do the whole job, because you got to cut into it to get keys so it doesn't lift.
Possibly less than the.
Possibly, but that's just showing up and doing it. That's not the engineering to get there and get it all done. That's just the material to put in place. Yeah, and it still worries me because we put it there. It comes with the liability to that too. Whether it's injury, death resulting, you know, we got to think about that afterwards.
I go back to keep it simple. It's a housing authority. I like the temporary speed humps. I like to keep it
I'd
simple.
like to see anything.
It's cost effective. It's pretty economical.
Yeah.
It's one location. I think in the meantime we can develop a policy for the future, but because it's a housing authority, we talked about playgrounds, parks, schools. Those are all kind of common sense places that we would look at to me. So the fact that we have a resident here and it's a pretty low cost. If it's not legal or we can't do it, but I think we have our town officials look at it. But that's just my opinion. I like the temporary speed humps.
We'll continue to take a look at it and bring back a proposal.
Okay, that does. Is 2 weeks not enough time, or I just want the public to know?
Let's give it a little while, at least a month.
Okay. So our last meeting in September?
Yeah.
We'll see you in a month. Main Street update.
So Main Street update is, again, at our last selectmen's meeting, there was some questions regarding Main Street through public comments. I just want to put together a memo. The Main Street reconstruction project first appeared on the 95-year plan back in fiscal year 2021. It was projected to be $2.2 million. It is now, the completion of the project is $2.9 million. What started this was it appears as I looked at the history of it, started with the installation of water main down Main Street. There wasn't funding wasn't completely secured for the project. It was hobbled. It's being put together by Chapter 90 funds. There were three. It looks like annual town meeting. Our procurements totaling about $675,000 and the ARPA $250,000. I just want to say that as a follow-up, work on Main Street is ongoing. The final patching of the road surface ended in July 2026. And once that was work required, because there were openings in the street in association with the installation of drainage infrastructure. So the town has not yet completed final paving of Main Street. The estimated cost of final paving of Main Street is approximately $800,000. The Main Street reconstruction project includes improvements to the sidewalk, so that on the north side of the street, that remains. And again, the drainage installation has to be complete before sidewalks can begin. But for the stretch of Main Street on the north side, bituminous concrete or asphalt, we have an estimated cost of $1.8 million for that. Just to point out, W Engineering of Taunton started with it, with the drainage upgrades. I know you're familiar with Granite City Engineering. They had the oversight of most of the work completed by the Highway Department. Granite City's contract expired, and we did not renew it with them. It's a mutual separation. The town issued a request for a proposal, which I'll address later on in the evening. So we would use that company to assist in the completion of Main Street. The good thing about the engineering firm is they provide engineering review, and they have a division which would provide identifying funding sources. They have a grant team which helps municipalities. Highway Superintendent Tom Ferry is responsible for overseeing the project. Mr. Ferry, along with the highway foreman, scheduled the police details and places the appropriate signage. And Mr. Ferry does, whenever he can, whenever he does, lets the town, my office know, town administrator's office know what's happening on Main Street, so we can post it on the website and for social media. As always, Mr. Ferry is available by phone, but one of the suggestions made 2 weeks ago was to have a dedicated email for Main Street, which we did initiate. It's right after this meeting tomorrow. We'll put it on social media, Main Street at DaytonMA.gov. That will be directed to the selectmen, but for more direct responses to myself and to Superintendent Ferry. The 5-year capital plan that we've had in place was extended to year 2026, so it's now beyond its usefulness. But as you recall, at the beginning of the summer, I directed the department heads to review their capital needs and submit them by September 17th. So what's going to happen is we're going to review the capital needs, come together with the capital outlay committee, and create a new 5-year plan. So I had submitted that for review. If you have any questions with this, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions on Main Street? So I just want to make sure I got it right. You said that we had a $2.2 million project, and all of the funding at that time, when this project was approved, was not secured.
Correct. It was laid out in a fashion that would come across in stages. They would use. They made assumptions that Chapter 90, fiscal year 23, 24, 25 would be applied to it, and that they would go to a town meeting to request funds. So yeah, so it wasn't completely appropriated at the time of the initial approval of Main Street.
I think that's very significant. Thank you. Good to know.
The cost of covering Main Street with those humps.
Next up, I have stormwater update. In the stormwater update, I give the sort of a brief history of the stormwater. Some things to point out that the stormwater committee is still falls under the Board of Health. Until there's a change in the bylaw, it's still a function of the Board of Health. So as the changes to the stormwater committee, changes to the stormwater bylaws come forward, I would suggest that we retain the stormwater committee. There is what has happened with the stormwater committee. It seems more personnel driven than position driven. One of the things that which illustrates that the best is at the beginning of its life, the town had a health agent who also happened to be a civil engineer, and they relied heavily on that individual to perform stormwater duties. Once that individual left, we didn't have a position for it and we didn't fill it, so it fell upon the stormwater committee members and our peer review. So I think so. The suggestion I have made in my memo to you is that we have to have a clear delineations of communication. Create a point person within the town government so they could farm out the applications, make sure that the peer review gets it, make sure it goes to the proper boards and committees. Again, it would be my suggestion. I'm going to just read directly from the memo. It would be my suggestion again to make sure that we keep the stormwater committee, but to establish a working group to develop standard operating procedures in the administration of the stormwater regulations and identify the positions which would be responsible. So in that working group should contain a member of the stormwater committee, the building inspector, highway superintendent, conservation agent, planning, zoning department manager, and the town administrator. Because those are the individuals who touch stormwater the most, and I think it would probably be best for that working group to develop a flow. So no matter who's on the committee, no matter who's in those positions, an applicant knows what they have to do when it comes to stormwater. A lot of confusion which takes place, and it was illustrated here at one of the public comments. As you look through the bylaw in the general bylaws in town, it just says Board of Health. There's no reference to planning or conservation. But if you go into the stormwater regulations, there's reference to planning and conservation. So there's some disconnect. So I think if we have a standard operating procedure in place, we would be able to overcome that hurdle, and everybody knows their roles and responsibilities.
Can you remind me, the stormwater committees, are those paid positions or no they're not?
No. Now most of the I think there are 7 members, and we have one of the members right here with us, but no, they're not paid members. I think half are from boards and committees, if I'm correct, and the other half are town staff members, building commissioner, conservation agent, highway superintendent, and
I think the working group makes sense.
Yeah.
My only thought is the planning zoning department manager, as long as the planning board's okay with that, right?
Right, yeah.
Otherwise, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that is between the building commissioner and the planning zoning office, those are the two points of application. Applicants go first in that office. So, and also with the conservation agent, so they see it, they get to see it first.
So do you need a vote to move forward? You're just going to start on this working group?
Again, I don't need a vote, just a sort of your blessing, and we can move forward on that.
No, I think it's great. And when is for the annual town meeting? Is that?
Yeah, I got to follow up. I don't know when when that change is in place. But I think that will sort of, I know understandably, the Board of Health wants to divest itself of the Stormwater Committee. It's just, it's a burdensome regulation that, and they're attached with the Board of Health, which is a lot. And again, it just happened because of the personnel at the time, and the Board of Health had that skill set, and we mashed it together. So I think this will be a good opportunity to sort of parse it out, make sure everybody knows what their roles and responsibilities are, and regardless of personnel, who's in the position, that position will have those responsibilities.
I think it makes sense to have that SOP to clear up any gray area, of course. And it makes sense to have someone in-house to receive applications.
It does, and to farm it out, that's their job, they understand it. We're not taking anything away from anybody, it's just that entry point, and that's like the most critical part of the application, that the applicant understands, what they need, where it's gonna go, and make sure it goes to the proper channels.
Any comments, questions on stormwater?
No. I just think we need to find, and I think, the working group you've suggested is a great idea. We need continuity for the future. It seems, like what you've said, it's been largely skill-based, who's interested in it, who can do it, who's good at it, and whatever. And less about specific positions. So I think we need something that's a little bit more nailed down, that we can, take into the future. And as this group of individuals in the Stormwater Committee moves on, with time and so on, we want to be able to replace them with good people. Because the more I come to understand stormwater, the more I understand it's pretty important work.
Yes.
No, it is. That's right. You know what? It is important work. That's why we want to, it's the applicant. It's easier for the applicant. They know right away what they need to do, and sometimes we get into a situation where after the fact, and that's just it's extremely difficult to get compliance and enforcement, and costly. So for both sides.
So I think Ralph was looking kind of for our informal okay, so it sounds like you're okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. And I just wanted to give the board, we have certified free cash gain in the amount of approximately $1.9 million. I just want to remind the board that that $1.9 million represents about 6.5% of our overall budget. Department DLS, Department of Local Services, likes towns. It's good fiscal management to have free cash within 5 to 7% of your overall budget. We had one big outlier this year. That $750,000 from the DR excess was included in this free cash. Without that, our free cash would be about $1.2 million, which represents about 4% of our total budget. So we do budget very closely to the best. And again, one of a few big turnbacks, as always, a few big turnbacks was the health insurance. We always overestimate the health insurance because of any catastrophic illness an employee may incur. We got a turnback of $150,000. But as you remember, the last budget process, we kind of cut, we know we overestimate that, so we did cut that back, so we could make sure we could spread out, use what we have. One of the big things, auto excise, we were only $50,000 off for auto excise. Our departments turned back, and again, I always say this is a credit to our departments, they turned back about approximately $400,000, $400,000.
That's not good budgeting.
I would disagree with you, because across all of our budgets, $400,000 isn't that much. We're budgeting, what are we budgeting at? 94, 95% accuracy? And that's across all the board, or across all the departments that we have. So, we are well, we're not doing anything crazy for free cash. We're well within the guidelines of prudent fiscal management of this town.
What are the total receipts of auto excise overall? Do you happen to know offhand?
I don't know off the top of my head. I might, hold on. If not, if I don't have it, I could get it to you like,
I mean,
I don't have it. Oh, here we go. $1.4 million. $1,454,000. We budgeted $1.4 million. We made the assumption that $1.4 million. So just again an update. I know it's always a big question. I just wanted to give the board an update on it. I know you received it last week, so it's always good to go over it.
Just wanted to mention on the $400,000, I think it's good that departments aren't spending to their budget and they're only spending what they need and trying to have a turn back, because we could have the opposite effect where departments do spend right to the penny, for one fiscal year to the next, and we appreciate when departments do spend conservatively and turn back.
Responsible, they're responsible stewards of the taxpayers' money, and they, as you know, they budget as tight as they can, and they if there's a bill time to turn back, they turn it back, and which it helps. It hurts them kind of in next year's budget, but we go through the process.
And does that include salaries too? Because we've had
It includes
it
just includes the totality of it. It doesn't.
So some of that has been by action of the Board of Selectmen, because we've left positions vacant, or we've taken time to fill positions. So some of that's even by our own actions. Yes, no, that's not what it was. Just trying to paint the picture, that's all.
I would honestly really like to see us make a priority in this new fiscal process to keep budgets at or below the 2.5% across the board. I think we need it, and I think we need to do it for multiple years and kind of let the people at Dayton kind of catch up and get a breath of air.
I can tell you this general government, they keep it within 2.5%. They keep it under 2.5%. There are just some healthcare costs and other costs which are out of our control. But general government, they keep it. They keep it under 2.5%. they definitely keep it on 2.5%. One of the things we're gonna do this year, again, in October, we're gonna try to put together a tri-board meeting, a meeting with the finance committee, Selectmen Finance Committee, and the school committee, just sort of kind of lay it out and what each group's expectations are. So we don't come in March and you know, the schools goes, oh, it's 4%, it's 3%, oh, we came in at 2.6%, you know, let's work together from the beginning. That's all.
I think you're doing a very good job.
And,
How long have you been with the town?
2 years.
2 years. I've watched you grow into your role.
I got bigger.
No, no, but you're definitely taking our comments and as far as trying to make those bridges of communication. I've seen you put so much effort into that with all of our elected and appointed boards and trying to take the initiative and do that tri-board meeting and we throw things at you and you've delivered. So this was a great town administrator report. I hope the residents learned a lot tonight. I know I did, and just want to say keep up the good work. You are representing the town very well.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Any other business for town administrator report? Review, discuss, act, open 2026 special town meeting warrant. See the motion?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion carries. All right, we have an award bid for on-call engineering and architectural services for Parkport, East Blackstone Valley, Lincoln, Rhode Island. I think you touched on this earlier.
No, I did. I'm just seeking to get authority from the board to enter into a contract with PAR. As I said, Granite City, they're we worked very well with them, but you know it was time for them to move on. And it's kind of funny, they helped us write the RFP for the on-call architectural engineering services. So we got a very good response. We had 9 bids, and we 3 of them we really liked. So myself, Jeff Mello, the building commissioner, and Tom Ferry, we were on the selection committee, and we interviewed those. We interviewed those three consulting firms. You know, we wound up with PAR. They have 56 years in total, 56 years of experience. We really like them. They are their office that's going to be serving us is out of Lincoln, Rhode Island, so they're very close. They have a lot of experience. One of the couple of things that we really focusing on is civil engineering because we understand the Main Street project. And the other thing was, you know, we looking for assistance in, you know, how can you help us secure grants for some of the projects that we're looking to do. So they have a grant writer on staff. Actually, was a former municipal employee. We were very impressed with their track record. You know, I'm just here to, you know, we recommend that the board, you know, award the bid to PAR and authorize me to enter into a contract with them. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
I have no questions. Any questions?
No. I'll make that motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion carries. Approval of the warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants paid by August 20th, 2026. 8A-27 for $129,776.02. 8B-27 for $334,067.64. Warrants paid by August 27th, 2026. 9A-27 for $130,947.43. 9B-27, $184,945, and 9C-27, $190,075.81.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion carries. Letter from Dennis Souza. He resigned from the Dayton Economic Development Committee. So that is on file. We thank Dennis for his volunteerism. And we have an email from Daniel Higgins, appointment of Leonard Hull as the planning board representative to the Dayton Economic Development Committee to replace Joe Figurito, who resigned. So you don't need a motion on that?
No, you should have a motion.
Okay.
I'll make that motion to appoint Leonard Hull.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Minutes of the Board of Selectmen. Is there any motions on the floor for
Make
these?
that motion to approve the regular session meeting minutes of August 12th.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Any more motions on this?
Motion to approve the August 18th, 2026 meeting for the meeting between the Dayton and Berkeley Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're at our second public input. Mr. Hull.
Leonard Hull, 760 Main Street, Dayton. First of all, Mr. Bataka, thank you. Members of the Board of Selectmen. I came before you 2 weeks ago and asked for some information. And you got that information from me. Not just for me, but the people in Dayton, hopefully, will watch the video. Second, thank you for appointing me. Mr. Cabbage, I don't know if you're aware of it. The Dayton Industrial Development Commission had gone astray. When I came on, when I was a member of the board, I really pushed for that formation of the group. And Peter was on the board. Kenny Pacheco was instrumental in making it happen. But there's one man who has really carried that group. And he's sitting here today, Danny Higgins. I want to thank him. The planning board deals with a lot of fires. And Mark, you know yourself what planning board members, what planners in the city of Taunton make. We could never afford that. So with the planning board being busy with the permitting process, there was no one to act as an ambassador to the town to bring in businesses. And we've done some really good things. And there's some things going on behind the scenes that I don't even think you're aware of right now. You know about Spring Street because that's out in the forefront. But there's a business in town that we're working with to try to save so they'll stay in town because they have a problem with the tax. Not a personal problem with the tax, but like everyone, problem with the tax rate. Working, see if we can work something with the assessor's office. Secondly, looking to work with the landlord so that they can make it affordable plus larger space. There's another manufacturing company in town that's looking to expand and didn't really, looking at what we have for industrial land, wasn't anything available. Fortunately, the owner of that company, co-owners of that company are former students of mine. And my relationship with Billy and Will, we hook them up and see if they can stay here rather than going to our competitor in Berkeley. And the last one, and I say this for the first time, we've had a lot of discussion about ICI. I was able to convince a wealthy developer to enter in negotiations with AstraZeneca, the possibility of buying the ICI property. The dam, the pond, the stream are important to this individual, and he has the resources to do it. Whether it'll happen, I don't know. But I say this, for one, to show you some of the things that the DDIC will do, working as ambassadors, to try to bring industry and commercial businesses into this town. We need them. That's what's gonna save this town. You know, homes don't carry the tax burden. They actually add to it, mainly impacting the schools. Schools right now, 14, 15,000 per student per year. So you need the industry, and that's what we're gonna do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other public input? Mr. Higgins, thank you for your work as well.
If I can just toss this out, I know, in terms of a little public input from me, everything you just said is really near and dear to me in terms of my goals as a selectman. I really want to see us bring in businesses. I've spoken to business owners and people that I am a customer with and things like that, where anytime I've heard they're making a move or whatever, I've said, hey, consider Dayton. What I don't know, and where I need a good education, I think, is in what are the carrots that we can extend, legally and appropriately and things like that. I'd love to have that conversation with whoever the correct party is to really learn that better. Because I'd like to try to help you out in that regard. Just get those conversations going and direct businesses to you and to the organization, to your team and all.
So one of the things.
Trying to keep that podium in business.
There are many people that are involved in the process. The assessor's office, obviously, planning board. But one of the things that the Board of Selectmen can do is to lead a movement to take a look at some of our industrial land, commercial land that is somewhat landlocked, and see if you can bring the players together to have a discussion about a strategy to open up more land for commercial and industrial use. One of the things Danny has done a great job with is getting the little cottage businesses going in town, or at least connecting them, putting word out about what the town has to offer. More of that, leading and directing the boards to work together on that, whether it be especially with planning, see ways that we can open up land. We need industry badly. We're at a point we can't afford to lose what we got either. So maybe some of those discussions with the assessor's office are ways that we can work to help businesses stay here. Thank you.
Any other public input? Any motions on the floor to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Good night.